Dolphin Diaries Chapter 3, June 21st, 8 a.m. He was still there this morning. I came up on deck first thing to see, and he was swimming around the boat. When he saw me, he came right up out of the water and practically stood on his tail. It was the weirdest thing. It felt like he had been looking for me and was really excited to find that I hadn't disappeared overnight. Wouldn't it be funny if he's studying us just like we're studying him? Maybe when he gets back to his pod, they'll be talking about human universe and complaining about how hard it is to study creatures that have to stay on dry land and almost never get into water. Jody, your breakfast is waiting, Gina called from the hatchway. Jody looked up from where she was writing in her diary on deck. Her mother sounded exasperated. Jody realized this was probably not the first time she'd been calling. Still, she couldn't pull herself away from the fascination of her new friend. "Mum, there's a dolphin here," she explained. Gina joined her daughter and gazed down at the dolphin, who was swimming in lazy circles just off the port bow. "How many are there?" she asked. "Just this one," Jody replied. "He was here last night." She couldn't stop smiling. "And no sign of any others?" Gina asked. "That's odd. Dolphins nearly always travel in groups, even if they're very small ones. You don't often meet lone dolphins, especially not away from a harbor." "Isn't he great?" Jody sighed happily. Gina pursed her lips thoughtfully. "I wonder how he'd respond if one of us got into the water." Jody caught her breath with excitement. "Oh, Mum, could I?" "I meant me, honey," Gina replied. She bit her lip ruefully. "I'm sorry, this seems like a good opportunity to check out the camera and get some footage of the Woodol. WDOL. Then if there are any glitches, we should be able to straighten them out before we sail too far away from Florida." Jody wasn't giving up yet. "Okay, but I could come with you, couldn't I?" she said eagerly. She had received her junior scuba diving certificate 3 months earlier and couldn't wait to use her new skill. "I promise I won't get in the way, and—" "Another time," her mother sounded firm. "But why?" Jody cried, not to whine, but it was so disappointing. "Several reasons," her mother replied briskly. She tickled them off on her fingers. "1, we might scare him off. Lone dolphins are usually fine with lone swimmers, but 2 might seem too many. 2, although dolphins aren't known to be aggressive towards people, there have been the occasional incidents where people have gotten hurt. Remember, this is a wild animal. 3, accidents can happen, and even though you know how to handle yourself in the water, I'd be tempted to keep an eye on you when I need to concentrate on my work." Jody sighed and gave in to the inevitable. "Okay, you'll have your chance soon," Gina promised. "Now, come down and have something to eat." Everyone was enthusiastic about Gina's plan. Everyone, that was, except Brittany. Her eyes narrowed and her face tightened with displeasure. "You mean we're just going to sit here while Dr. McGrath takes pictures of some fish?" "It's a dolphin, Brittany," Jody corrected her. "Dolphins are mammals, not fish." "I don't care what it is," Brittany snapped rudely. "I thought we were supposed to be sailing to Key West, then going to the Bahamas. What is the deal? If it doesn't matter where we are, why don't we just go to the Bahamas now? There must be loads of dolphins there." Her father, who was sipping a second cup of coffee, frowned, then said slowly and clearly, "Brittany, I've already explained to you. Dolphin Dreamer is not your private pleasure cruiser. This is a scientific expedition, and our schedule is set by the scientists, not a spoiled teenager. Brittany jumped up from her seat. "Thanks a lot," she shouted. "I never asked to come with you. I don't want to be here, so why don't you just drop me off somewhere? Anywhere. The sooner the better." Jody saw Harry clench his jaw tensely, then take a deep breath and relax his face again. "Brittany, you know very well why not," he said calmly. "I hope we're not going to have to go through this every day. The sooner you accept the situation and make the best of it, the better. The sooner I get away from you, the better," Brittany cried. "I want to go home." Then she burst into tears and stumbled out of the main cabin in the direction of her cabin. There was an embarrassed silence. Finally, Harry Pierce spoke. "I'm sorry about that," he said. "Brittany had a bit of a rough time with her mother and me splitting up." He waved a hand vaguely, looking miserable. "Have you ever been able to get in touch with Brittany's mother?" Gina asked, her voice gentle. Harry shook his head. "Her cell phone is still switched off. Maybe she didn't take it with her. I've left an urgent message for her at the hotel in Paris where she usually stays, and also a long email explaining how impossible this situation is for all of us. I'm sure she'll be in touch very soon to make some other arrangements, but in the meantime, I'm afraid you're stuck with Brittany." "You mean she's stuck with us?" said Craig gently. "Life will be easier for us all if we can convince her that we're really not so bad. Jody, you'll have to be our goodwill ambassador. Try to make friends with her." Jody nodded unhappily, wondering how to get through to someone who wouldn't listen, somebody who didn't care about anything she found interesting, and who made it clear she didn't like her. "Now let's get the show on the road," said Craig briskly, and the mood in the room changed to one of excitement. Up on deck, Gina pulled on a wetsuit. Although the water was warm, it would protect her from jellyfish, stings, and other potential hazards. While Jody watched, wishing she was the one suiting up, Craig helped her mother fit on her weight belt, vest, and dive computer. Craig then checked the air gauge. "You've got a full tank, but let's keep this first time down shallow and short," he suggested. "Half an hour, okay?" "Sure," Gina grinned, putting fins on her feet. "I don't want to wear out my welcome with our finey friend." Maddie was lowering the hydrophone, an underwater microphone, over the side of the boat into the water. The object was to record dolphin sounds, but the hydrophone often picked up lots more. Jody had been surprised to learn that the underwater world was far from silent. A lot of fish made noises. Cameron emerged from the hatchway carrying the video monitor. "Where do you want this, boss?" he asked Craig. Gina arched an eyebrow. "You going to be watching what I film on deck?" "No, there's a Miami Dolphin game I want to see," Craig said, straight-faced. Jody giggled and Gina laughed too. "Well, I hope we don't find out the hard way that the monitor's not as waterproof as the camera." Harry glanced at the small flags called telltales, fluttering in the breeze, and then peered over the side where the water was growing choppier. "Wish we'd had a bit of this wind yesterday," he said, "but you'll be all right." "Just don't splash too much," said Craig. "I hate being disturbed when I'm watching football." Gina made a face at him, then fitted her mask snugly on her face and put the air regulator in her mouth. She entered the water with a great stride off the dive platform. Then, when Gina was signaled that she was okay, Maddie handed the camera in its bright yellow waterproof housing. Jody's heart pounded with excitement as she leaned over the edge and watched her mother descent below the surface. Sean and Jimmy jostled for position beside her, but Jody hardly noticed. She was watching the silvery stream of bubbles rising up as her mother sank lower. That's all for today.